Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today is another LEGO Top 10 MOCs of the Week episode where I show you guys the coolest custom creations I happen to see people building in LEGO throughout this last week. I highly recommend you check out those links in the description below. There are way more than just 10 custom builds that I'm going to be showing you. And before we jump into any of the models, first I do want to say that the custom build that went up in the web store this last week is the Atlanta-class cruiser. From the designer Chuck, it is built at 1/200 scale, matching up with the Fletcher-class destroyer, an amazing World War II era ship with tons and tons and tons of tiny realistic details the closer and closer you look. It's an awesome model. We're having fun building out more and more of the Navy fleet, and I've left a link to this in the description below, and you can get the instructions at www.brickvault.toys. Now let's jump into some honorable mentions from the builder Librarian Bot. This is titled Switchback, and yes, this is a robot that transforms into a train. Usually it's a car or truck. This time it's a train, and it's amazing. Then from the builder Asgardian Studio, this is an interesting, colorful agricultural glider. I don't know if it's for spraying pesticides or something, but it's definitely an interesting design, and I love to see this ideas update from LEGO Wearim. The figure on the left was built quite some time ago, and I think the update is the samurai figure on the left. And here is Love is in the Air from Vincent Q. This looks like a mama panda and a baby panda just hanging out together. And then from the Brickologist, part of the Survivors RPG, this is the Speeder Bike Challenge Ambush on Sorgan. I like the use of the trans orange clip. It's a nice way to suspend blaster shots. There's quite a lot of detail in this relatively small vignette. This is an alternate build for the set 42107 from Chris Yee. I have not seen Kaneda's bike done in Technic, and this is a really good job, especially considering it's just pieces from the Ducati set. Here's just an awesome LEGO rainbow from Elspeth de Montes. Remco Rohan has more work in progress pictures of his Imperial Nebulon B. I'll show more and more of those pics once there's some final production shots done. It looks so good though. Sunder59 titled this Necropolis. It's not quite micro, it's not quite full scale, it's somewhere in the midi size. I love the details though. Dan Coe has an interpretation of an elite Praetorian Guard speeder, and it's very sleek. Built at 1/72 scale from Lennart Court, this is probably the coolest version of a LEGO Nighthawk I've ever seen. It's small, but it's just so sleek. From James Pegram, this is Man Overboard, and who doesn't love a new way to build water? From Top Breaking News, the title here is The Most Painful Weapon, LEGO Machine Guns. Sort of a guilty pleasure here. From the designer Paul Eric Bohr, this is Royal Customs House. The red exterior pops quite well with the black roof and white highlights. Lots of interesting characters on the patio outside. And then the builder Atalis built The Play at Chapel Street. Lots of excellent medieval architecture going on. Eclipse Collar titled this Rather Curious, and it's rather disturbing. From Neon 5, this is a modified Fortuna class land speeder. Personal favorite details are those 1x1s in tan fitting into the arch brick in the back. And then from Martin Stipkovic, this is Noir Car Chase, and I particularly like the color design that we have for the police. Now jumping into the top 10 for the week. The first one that's showing up here is from Tino Poutianen, and the title is Glass Cerberus. The interesting and disturbing nature of this build cannot be overstated. We have skulls, 3 skulls in the front, and then what looks like a glass body or glass skin surrounding real blood and organs on the inside of this Cerberus. The details for the toes in the back definitely grab my eye. The strange collection of organs located in the hump of the back is a really interesting model, and just in general, the unique concept of this creature has been realized particularly well in LEGO bricks, which is, it just looks so strange. Now we're getting pretty close to Halloween, so this is a model that I think is definitely worth taking a closer look at. From Pieter Dennison, this is Monster House. And in the description it says, inspired after watching Monster House. Now look closely, because no angle on this model is conventional, nor does it look easy to put together. The roof is tilting in the center. Every black bit of tile detailing for the roof, in fact, seems offset in one angle or another. And of course, the creepy, open, nasty mouth in the front is what really grabs your eye, and there's a lot of interesting bar clips that illustrate the jagged breaking of the gray wood in the very front. What's more is that when you take a look at the house from far away, it really does look a bit angry. The canted roof on either side makes it look just like it's got some angry eyebrows or something. I have no doubt we're going to be seeing other spooky builds by the end of this month, but it will be very, very hard to top this one in particular. From the builder Montgomery Burns, this is titled In the Garden. As far as I can tell, this looks like every gardener's fantasy. There are tons of interesting flourishing different types of crops in every corner of this little area. I like the build for the greenhouse. The pumpkin patch looks especially nice. The pneumatic tube used as a hose is very, very appropriate. And from afar, it's just excellent and colorful and just nice and quaint and easy to look at. Now we've jumped onto another spooky kind of build from Corvus Auriac MOCs. This is Stone Giant Bust. Now the Stone Giant itself does look pretty angry, and everything else feels very kind of fantasy and medieval. I particularly like the different layers of teeth inside the giant's mouth and the horn pieces used for angry eyebrows. And then I also appreciate the different beard pieces used behind the dragon's head. And by the way, the dragon's heads are made of frogs just sitting down. There's some really interesting part choices used to create a lot of areas on the model. Also, the dragons are a little bit fat, which just looks kind of nice. And look really closely at how he built those trees. Anyways, lots of fun micro details can be found on this one in particular. And then Anthony Wilson went ahead and made something. He made something. The title here is excellent. It is Aortis Bloom. And what we have is sort of a medical interpretation of what a heart would look like, also combined with what feels like a bonsai style tree. I only get that impression based on the nice little ornate stand that this tree is growing from. And then the use of the longer red tentacles and blue flexi tubes just has a really interesting way to pop, and the model really does feel very, very organic. I also like the inclusion of a little bit of the dark red and the dark blue on certain areas of the model. It makes it feel a little bit less static. And this is truly an interesting piece that would look excellent, excellent, excellent on a shelf. If you've been keeping track of the numbers, I don't really care the order in which I present them, but anyways, this is build number 5 from CheesyStudios. This is titled Quidditch World Cup Afterparty. So we can see a pretty happy and jovial atmosphere from a lot of these characters, but really the build details stuck out to me more than anything else. Look at the legs for the coffee table. Those 1x1 round bits in gold that make up the edge of the carpet. I don't know how he did it, but look at the slight arch of the wall he did with just 1x1 round bits and square tiles. I also particularly like this combination of nougat and brown in the corner with those alternating quarter round tiles. And it's a scene that just has a lot of fine, interesting details the closer and closer you look. And the same can be said for this next one from Ayrlego. This is Postmaster's House and Office, Otono. And in parentheses, I have here the Autumn Isle. According to the designer, it's surrounded by a tree that produces autumn-colored foliage all year round, but we do have some excellent design details. I specifically like the ornate detailing on the edge of the roof. Some people like to argue that the tiles tucked between studs is an illegal building technique. I think they're technically right, but it looks amazing. The inclusion of some loose nougat round studs just in the corner makes the upturned dirt feel a little bit more authentic. Also, just in general, I very much like the style of building your model up a little bit and then having studs on their sides encapsulating the border. And now number 3 in the lineup is from Nick Trotta. This is the Heavenly Strike. This designer was playing around with some techniques for the wing that he was showing earlier in just a bunch of random colors, and now we have a final view of this absolutely massive, super thick model. It's hard to describe the techniques that go into making an angular design like this. The studs change directions in so many ways so quickly in just about every single little area of this piece that it becomes difficult to start pointing out individual areas that look particularly good. What I can say is that it doesn't really feel like Lego after a while at a large enough scale with enough dedication to making every area of this ship feel harsh and high-tech and futuristic. It just really does look like a completely different entity, different from Lego bricks. The color combination also has a really good way of popping well. The majority of the plane is white with a lot of black, but the different shades of blue, copper, and a little bit of yellow and red here and there really make this thing feel alive. The design for the cockpit is particularly nice in my opinion, and now we're moving on to a build that has absolutely blown my mind from Feind. The simple title here is Sandcrawler MOC, but it is so much. There is so much happening. The scale actually feels pretty close to what maybe the most recent Sandcrawler play scale was, but to use the simple design acronym of snotting or studs not on top technique is simply not doing this model justice in terms of what is actually happening here when you look up close. Between all the gaps here on the sidewalls of the Sandcrawler, you can see what look like small hinge plate pieces and perhaps neck brackets, if I'm not mistaken, filling in every tiny little space. I shudder to think how much time and meticulous effort it took from this designer to fill in all the gaps. Personally, I think it really paid off. This model feels extremely solid, and it may also be difficult to see just how accurate this piece is, but if you do have any extra time, I highly recommend you take a look at the actual Sandcrawler and cross-compare it with this not so large model. It's built to scale with those little statuette figures. What's even more interesting is that this is the first custom design to come from this builder. I'm sure this had a lot of interesting tweaks along the way. Now jumping on to the last model of the week, I have been showing a couple of work-in-progress pics in the upcoming videos, but the designer Alexander has finally finished the Woolshed flat. He says he built it for Octrainbur 2020. I've never actually heard Octrainbur before, but I'll have to keep that in mind for next year. This is so amazing. He's got a video, and I don't want to show too much of it because really you guys should be checking out the links I leave in the description below. But there's something just so perfect about how this model was set up that it kind of is the ultimate train display. If you don't want to take up a massive footprint in your house or backyard or wherever, this gives you such a massive bang for your buck because the train goes in one direction while the Woolshed flats goes in the other. Now you get to see the train passing by nice and slow, but it looks like the landscape is moving nice and quick. There's tons of excellent nature details located on the stand itself, and the train looks awesome. I love the nougat used for the wood paneling, and just the nice dark red highlight in front for the engine grabs your eye just enough every time it passes by. Seriously, this is an awesome model. I don't know how he managed to figure out all the internal stuff, but it's probably the best way to keep a train going in a studio that isn't pretty much dedicated to having a train going in a studio, because that's usually the way it is. Anyways, there were some amazing models this week. I'm sorry I didn't have time to talk about all of them. Remember to check out those links in the description below. I max out the description page every single week when doing this video. If you have any extra time, you can always check out our web store, www.brickvault.toys, for some amazing Lego custom building instructions. If you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, sticking around to the end, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.